21 upgrade. So today I'm going to be installing RPM's hybrid gearbox. This of course was donated to me by Coyote0976. Guys, let's go ahead and open this up and check it out. Alright, so go ahead and pull off the top, and of course I am going to have to cut this bag open. Good thing I have some scissors. Cut that open. We have the instructions of course, which I won't lie guys, installing this thing is a bit of a pain, but it is worth it. Now we have the arms also. They give us 0 degree and 3 degree, in case you want a little bit more control on the track. And then we have the hybrid box itself, which comes with an aluminum plate. And that's the reason why I love this thing. Works as a heat sink, and this part doesn't warp where the motor mounts onto. Believe me, with the stock one, that's a big problem. Then of course we have RPM stickers, the packaging, as well as all the hardware. So let's go ahead and get this all installed. Alright, first things first, let's go ahead and remove the rear tires by undoing the 4mm nuts that hold them on. Once the tires are out of the way, the next thing I need to do is remove the gearbox cover. It's held on with 2 screws, one on top, one on bottom. Once that's out of the way, it's time to go ahead and remove the motor. I'm going to start off by unplugging the wires that lead it to the ESC. Then I'm going to undo the 2 screws that hold on the motor to the transmission box. Now depending on the size pinion gear you have on there, if it's too big, you're going to have to take it off. So you're going to have to loosen up this grub screw on the side of the pinion and then slide it off. If it's a 19 tooth pinion gear, usually you can just go ahead and slide the motor out without having to remove it. Next up, I need to go ahead and remove the wheelie bar. It's held on with 3 screws. We have one on this side and then 2 on this side. Now a quick note, if you do have the RPM wheel bar mount, then you're going to have to also remove this screw. Once that's out of the way, it's time to go ahead and remove the rear shock tower. It's held down with 4 screws. We have 2 in the back and then 2 in the front. Once that's taken care of, it's time to go ahead and remove the rear A-arms, and it's held on with a screw pin. Usually it goes in through the back, but for me, I went ahead and put it in through the front. Once those screw pins are out of the way, you can literally just grab the rear shock tower and pull everything off. There we go. Set that off to the side, and the last thing I need to go ahead and do in order to remove it is undo the 6 screws that are on the bottom. And now we finally got the transmission out. Now it's time to go ahead and start taking this apart. So first thing I need to do is undo the spur gear. So I'm going to swing both of the drive shafts forward, and then I'm going to go ahead and undo this 4mm nut. Once that nut's out of the way, I'm going to pull off the collapsible spring, followed by the spur gear, and then the slipper clutch pad and plate, and then I'm going to go ahead and slide out this pin. Now I can go ahead and remove the drive shafts. Each one is held on with a grub screw. Once those are out of the way, I can finally go ahead and take the transmission apart, and all I have to do is remove all the screws on the side. Once you have all these screws removed, you're going to go ahead and flip it upside down, pull off the electrical tape, and now pull the halves apart, just like that. And surprisingly, there's not too much grease in here, and it's not too dirty, but yeah, I'm still gonna have to clean it up. So next up, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out the diff gear, followed by the idle gear, and remember there is Teflon washer and bearing on each side. Then I'm gonna pull out the idle gear, or not the idle gear, the drive gear, and then remove this bar for the idle gear. Then we have, of course, all this stuff that needs to be pulled out as well. So next up I need to go ahead and pop out these bearings. So I'm going to get my tool, push it from the outside in, get the bearings out from each one of the sides. And one of these bearings is a big pain to get out, guys, and I'll show you why. One of the bearings that goes for the idle gear right here does not have a hole on the other side. So the easiest thing to do is to get the idle gear bar, put it in there, and then rock it back and forth. And bam, just like that. Now, next step is I'm going to go ahead and wipe all these down, clean it with some WD-40, which, believe me guys, is perfectly safe, but I need all these gears, washers and bearings completely clean. Alright, all my parts are clean. Now it's time to go ahead and put everything in. So I'm going to start off with bearings on each side, 2 on this side, and of course 2 on this side. Then I'm going to go ahead and keep working with the right side from this moment on. So next up, I'm going to insert the bar for the idle gear, followed by Teflon washer, bearing, the idle gear itself, followed by another bearing, and then the second Teflon washer. Then I'm going to get the drive gear. I'm going to slide a Teflon washer on each side, just like that. Slide that into position, followed by, of course, the diff gear. And there you go. That's it. Now, one of the nice things about the RPM gearbox is that it's sealed on the bottom, so you don't have to put electrical tape in there. But that means that you do have to put the white lithium grease on there right now. Let me go ahead and clean off the tip. I've had this same bottle forever, guys. But yeah, it's just gonna go ahead and put it on the idle gear while spinning gears, and bam. You should go ahead and coat them. You want a healthy coat on all the gears. There wasn't enough on there last time, which quite honestly I haven't been into Galamoth's gearbox for quite some time, so that didn't surprise me. Alright, next up I need to go ahead and slide on the other half of the gearbox. Make sure it's pushed down all the way, and now it's time to go ahead and put it together. First of all, I'm going to get the aluminum plate. Put it on the right way. There we go. And now, with the screws that are included with the gearbox, you will see that these are not the butt top. These hold down the aluminum plate. One on top, one on bottom. Okay, once those two are taken care of, you're going to go ahead and use your two stock screws. Right here, you're going to be using your 20mm, and then right here, you're going to be using your 23mm. Then you have this 16mm that goes on top right here. They do include this screw. Now, lucky for me, I do have a stainless steel screw that was 16mm. Now, a screw does not go here. That hole is fake. I don't know why they put that there, but no, you don't put anything in there. Next up, I need to go ahead and attach this piece that goes on for the gearbox. If you're wondering where that is, it's included right here. And you'll see it's right on the edge. Just go ahead and twist this off, and then you're going to slide this right onto place, just like that. And then you're going to use the two 12mm screws that they include. Once those two are installed, you're going to go ahead and slide down here and install this 12mm screw. Okay, once all that's taken care of, it's time to go ahead and attach it to the skid plate. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and get the mount for the A-arm. You're going to use your stock screw on the hole to the back. You're going to screw it through the brace, and then you're going to top it off with one of these nuts that they include. Now, if you need any help tightening down these nuts, they are the size of 4mm, so it's the same size as the nuts that are on your tire. Just as an extra little hint there. Now, next up, you're going to go ahead and get your gearbox. You're going to line this up on top. Now, with this, you're going to be using the longer, thicker screws that they include, sliding that through the bottom. It's going to go through the brace and then out this top hole. And then you're going to go ahead and top that off with a 4mm nut. Once that's all taken care of, you're going to go ahead and flip it upside down and then reinstall these two screws. Once that's taken care of, you can go ahead and reattach the drive shafts. And what you're just going to do is slide it on there and then install the elongated grub screw. Once those are reattached, it's time to go ahead and put the whole rear assembly back on. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your drive shaft, slide it into the sleeve, just like that. Do it for each side. And then you're going to push the A-arms into position, reinstall the screw pins, as well as the 4 screws that hold down the rear shock tower. Once all that's taken care of, you can go ahead and reattach the wheelie bar. Now, if you have the stock wheelie bar mount, you're going to attach 3 screws. We have 1 on this side and then 2 on this side. If you have the RPM wheelie bar mount, you're going to also attach this screw. Now, in the very beginning, when you put this whole gearbox together, you can go ahead and install that screw at this time, since, well, for the stock wheelie bar mount, you don't need it. Alright, once that's taken care of, you're going to go ahead and slide the wheels onto the wheel hex hubs, and I'll explain why in a moment. So we need to go ahead and put the slipper clutch assembly and spur gear back onto the drive gear shaft, and we're going to start off by installing this bar into the hole. Once you have that bar installed, make sure that it's even on each side. Now we're going to get the slipper clutch pad and plate. You're going to go ahead and line these up just like this. Make sure that lays flat, and then when you look on the back, you'll see that there is a groove for that bar to go into. Make sure you push that all the way down, hold it in place, get the spur gear, slide that all the way down, hold that in place, and then it's topped off with the collapsible spring, and then finally the 4mm nut. Now you're going to go ahead and tighten that nut all the way down, and this is why you put the tires on. If the tires weren't on, then the spur gear would just keep spinning. Now after you tighten the nut all the way down, you're going to loosen it 1/2 turn to 3/4 of a turn. Me, I prefer 1/2 turn. Once that's taken care of, well, you can go ahead and remove this tire, and now we need to go ahead and attach the pinion gear. So we're just going to go ahead and slide that into place, and you'll notice that the shaft from the motor has one flat side. So what you're going to want to do is aim the grub screw straight onto that flat side. Once that grub screw is lined up with the flat side of the shaft, you're going to go ahead and slide the pinion gear into the spot where it's completely flush with the spur gear. Then you can go ahead and tighten that grub screw down. So once the pinion gear is installed, now it's time to go ahead and get the proper spacing in between the spur gear and the pinion gear. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and put a piece of paper in between the pinion gear and the spur gear, tighten down the screws, and that should give you the proper spacing. Just remember, if you use that method, to push the pinion gear all the way into the spur gear. What I like to do is I'll eye it. Well, sort of eye it, sort of listen. But I'll push it in all the way and then pull it out very slightly. Hold the pinion gear down, and then I'll jiggle the spur gear. The moment I can hear a very light click, just like that, then I'll go ahead and tighten these two screws down. Once that's taken care of, you can finally reattach the gear cover. Remember, with the two screws that hold it on, the longer one goes on top. Now, for the small screw that goes on the bottom of the gearbox cover, you're not going to be using that anymore. You're going to be using a 10mm screw. Once all that's taken care of, you can go ahead and finally reattach the tires, and you are done. And finally, that's it. Now, it should go without saying, just remember to go ahead and plug in the wires from the motor to the ESC. Other than that, yeah, I'm very happy with this upgrade. I love that aluminum plate for this gearbox, guys. It's almost a must-have for this RC. Now, on top of that, I have to say that I love how well the RPM wheelie bar mount matches with the gearbox. For the stock gearbox, it doesn't really work with it. This arm that goes on top doesn't really, well, line up properly, but with the RPM gearbox, it's just a perfect fit. So thank you, Coyote, again for this awesome donation. And that was Galamoth's level 21 upgrade. And then 2 on this side. Wow, what's up with you, camera? Focus. Let's give you a quick wipe. Now, are you gonna focus? Wow, that just made it worse. Well, Alright, wow, wait a second. Once that's taken care of, you can go ahead and reinstall the motor. You're just gonna slide it into position and reinstall, not tall, stall.